What's your I'm glad I tried it, but never again story? Hot air balloon. I was 4,500 feet in the air for an hour and a half with nothing separating me from a horrifying death but a wicker basket. Stand-up comedy at an open mic. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed being on stage. Once I got my first laugh, and I enjoyed the feeling after getting off stage. But the intense anxiety leading to being on stage was not even a little bit worth it for me. Public speaking is not my forte. Waxing my back. The process itself wasn't bad, but then again I have a high tolerance for pain. The woman waxing me kept commenting on how impressed she was that I didn't cry out in pain. The smoothness was great. The worst part was when, a few weeks later, it started growing back. OMFG the itching. Definitely not worth the cost, but glad I know this now. I shaved my whole butt for a bet back in college. Worst thing ever. When the stubble starts growing in, it's like sitting on a cheese grater. Your butt cheeks chafe real bad, and sometimes when you fart your butt cheeks stick together and the fart slides up your crack, making a comical trombone sound. I really don't know how girls can function with no or minimal body hair. Handmade phyllo dough. Everything from scratch. So much rolling. I did it. It was delicious. I will never do it again. I feel like once you've made something like that, you're entitled to buy pre-made forever. Guilt-free. I help my wife with her baking adventures, and there are a few things, phyllo included, that we'll never make again from scratch. Mardi Gras on Bourbon Street. It was a ton of fun, but it was also smelly, sticky, crowded, sweaty, and gross. They literally have front loaders to scoop up the trash from the street each night. Went back the NOLA this year out of season and I loved the city so much more when it wasn't flooded with drunkards and garbage. I got to land, me being the only passenger, in an auto-rotating helicopter. Auto-rotation is what helicopters do when they lose power at altitude. The force of the fall spins the blades of the helicopter, giving the pilot enough control to land. Thing is, once power is, intentionally, in my case, lost, the blades slow down and the helicopter falls until the blades spin back up to speed. We dropped like 50 featuring. It was a rush but nope. Ed, for clarity, I'm not a pilot. I was the lone passenger. Fuck that man. I'd have crap myself. Camp Irvine around the Aussie outback in the midst of summer. It was a beautiful journey treading the razor line between life and death. Lonely, desolate scenery, the friendliest locals. When you found them, and every town seemed to have its own speciality in biting insect, mosquitoes, ants, flies. So hot in the middle of the day that if you made the mistake of walking around, your feet would literally begin to cook in your shoes. We stayed in a crappy converted camper van and pretty much roughed it except for one day in actual accommodation. It was fun to do once, but getting into our home shower after a week of public toilet sink baths was heaven. Just once, but never again. Piloting a plane. My girlfriend got me a Groupon for a lesson and I was super excited about it. The guy even let me take off. I was thinking, I don't know if you should hand your life over to a stranger, man. I barely trust myself. It was a very small plane so you feel every bit of wind and it was stressful for me. Maybe that goes away if you do it 5 times or so, but I just wanted to try it once. Now I'm good. Wanted to be a pilot since a very young age. I've got thousands of hours in simulators by now. I flew in a glider for the first time around 5 years ago. Let me control of after getting towed to 3,000 feet. Was so much fun, and it felt completely natural. Like I had the muscle memory from before. Getting my glider license this summer. Living in an apartment where I'm in charge of roommates. Had to evict people who didn't pay. Dealt with extreme lack of cleanliness. It's honestly just easier to live somewhere small and cheap, alone, than a nice big place with roommates. Can relate. Currently live with 5 other people. One of them recently created maggots. Working at McDonald's. Sweden. I now have high respect for people who work in service. In general, I have learned to be more patient when waiting for my food whenever I'm at fast food restaurants. I know the painful stress they're experiencing and I won't put them through more by being an impatient butthole. But I will never, ever work there again. The stress is horrendous and people can be real jerks to the employers for no reason whatsoever. I am currently riding a Vespa through Rome. Italian driving sucks and I am so anxious, but I am glad I crossed this off my bucket list. I am not texting and driving. I stopped for lunch. I love that I can be farting in bed in my boxer shorts and be on a thread with somebody who's doing something so exciting like riding a Vespa through Rome. Dating a single mother. I loved her and loved the kids, but it didn't work out. Now I'm grieving the loss of not just the relationship with her but also with her 3 beautiful kids. Can't imagine growing very attached to someone else's kids then essentially never being able to see them again when it all ends. Twice the roughness of a regular breakup. Sucks, man. Snorkeling. I've actually done it a few times, but once I got stung bad by a jellyfish, and the other time was on the Great Barrier Reef and I was literally terrified the entire time. Turns out I'm very afraid of open water and sharks, but it was still quite a cool experience. Yeah, I was shocked to find out that my fear of heights translated to the open sea. I know it's not physically possible, but the bottom of the ocean is so far away. I thought I was going to fall from the surface of the ocean. Going to a dance club. Too many people. Stressed me right out. Had to leave shortly after I showed up, but glad I attempted to go out of my comfort zone. I'll stick to bars and drinking at home. I joined the army. Best one-time decision I ever made. I want to learn discipline, fulfill my duty as a citizen, become trained to prosecute war, meet fellow patriots, and grow some dang chest hair. One brain injury, busted ankle, and an episode of lying, psychosis-inducing insomnia later. Well, I'm quite satisfied. I think I'll be a massage therapist for a while. Military service, everything you wanted, and more. More may be an array of conditions, fatal or non-fatal, including but not limited to physical, mental and or spiritual exhaustion. A huge burger with 2 giant donuts as buns. To be honest, it wasn't that bad, but that feeling of pure diabetes prevented me from getting another, or even finishing the one I had. Man, that sounds disgusting. I do wanna try something that disgustingly big, but definitely not that. All sorts of weird food. Most weird things I've eaten I actually like. Organ meat, wild game, very rare or raw meat, that sort of thing. I see something different on a menu and I'm freaking ordering that crap because I've discovered all sorts of weird crap I ended up loving. But I'll never eat bats again. Polar plunge. Lake Michigan on the 1st of January in sub-zero temperatures. Getting my clothes back on took forever because I couldn't feel my extremities. It was an experience I'll always remember. Never again. Childbirth. Although I could argue I wasn't particularly glad to have experienced it in the first place. I have now given birth with and without an epidural. While I prefer doing it without the epidural, 10/10 would never do again. Nor do I plan to. Building my own PC and overclocking it. It was a fun experience, especially the OC part, watching the temperature, adjusting the voltage, checking stability, getting it as fast as possible while keeping the temperature in check and still running stable. These days, I don't care enough for those extra few percent of performance, but I am glad I did it once. Back in the day when CPUs were just about to crest 1 GHz, AMD had Athlons out that were actually locked, but you could get around the lock by using a mechanical pencil and tracing the lead on the chip from one pin to another. Managed to push my 900 MHz to 1 GHz. Felt like a goddamn king. I mistook it for coke and snorted a small line of it. I puked for 2 hours, then I experienced one of the most orgasmic afternoons of my life. It really was amazing, and I was terrified after, thinking how good it felt. I never touched any hard drugs since. You're lucky you didn't end up like Mia Wallace. I majored in civil engineering and am currently working in the construction industry, but more into the project contract management side. What I studied in civil engineering in college is very different to what I have to use in my current day-to-day tasks. Most of the calculations that you're taught are now done by programs and you just have to input date. If I had known this, I would have probably majored in something else because 4 years of engineering really took a lot out of me. The constant workload and stress really made me want to quit at times. I'm glad I finished it though. I feel like that's applicable to most degrees. My brother works in finance and he says similar things about the toll his education took on him relative to how he works today. Pursed my nipples. It was fun, but dang, I am glad I don't have them anymore. Being scared of seat belts, lace covered bras, brushing my hair, getting my hair caught in my jewelry. It looked great, but dang, I am glad I don't have to worry about something hitting my boobs. Also not having to be scared of someone playing with my boobs and sleeping topless. I just don't do pissings. Same. I was shocked at how often my nips hit things. I kept mine for like 6-7 years. One never healed properly. Took it out, then the one that was fine started being brand new, so I just took them both out. I won't redo them, but I love the way they looked. Ruined boob fun though, and just more hassle than they're worth. I'm fine with my other piercings. Riding motorcycles. I wrecked at 75 miles per hour in a turn on a back road. Riding solo, no one around to help. I almost got hit by a car as I slid across the pavement. Tore up my knee pretty good. Had to call an Uber to get me to urgent care. I think I'm going to take the "you didn't break a single bone or get too hurt" as a sign that I should stop riding. Vacationing in Brazil. Apartment broken into. Heinous sunburn. Traffic. Cab drivers. And not a small chance we'd get mugged. Met some awesome people. Ate a lot of really incredible food. Enjoyed the views and local hospitality enormously. But also heard enough stories from locals to know I got really lucky. My 13th birthday, I had 2 male friends have a sleepover. I am also male. One of the guys suggested, "Hey, why don't we practice, for when we get the opportunity with a girl?" So we had a gay 3-way. I bummed them. They licked my tea. One of them sucked me off. And when all 3 of us were sat in a circle wanking each other off, we looked at each other and near enough at the same time stopped and said, "Yeah, this isn't for us." Glad I tried it to know if I am gay or not. Now know that I am not. One of the guys suggested, "Hey, why don't we practice, for when we get the opportunity with a girl?" Speech 100. Going into a cave system. It was even one of those really touristy ones. Lots of people, artificial light in places, and it still scared the crap out of me. I don't belong underground. Summer music festival. The intensity of hardcore drug use and rampant sexual assault was not something I was prepared for. I just wanted to rock out and smoke a doobie. First day in Thailand. Family vacation. We're starving, so we stopped by at a restaurant. When we receive the menu, none of the things sound really appetizing to me, except for the meal that also happens to be the spiciest on the menu. I figure, oh what the heck. You always hear people talking about how spicy food is around these parts, but surely that's exaggerated a bit even if it's too spicy for me. How bad could it be? My mother tells me I shouldn't take it. My brother calls me an idiot and not to take it. The waitress warns me that it is very spicy. At this point, all of these warnings only make me more stubborn and committed. The meal arrives, and I remind myself not to drink water once I start eating, because it will make it more spicy. I take the first bite, and it's not too spicy. Second, starting to be quite spicy. I can handle it. I start eating it with a lot more rice. At this point my eyes are teary and I need to wipe my nose. I keep eating. My brother starts laughing. Tears are falling down my cheeks. But this is perfect. I love it when a food is too spicy and you keep on eating. There is a special feeling that comes with it that I can't describe. Finally, I break. My face is full of waterfalls. There isn't any rice left, and the waiters are trying their hardest not to laugh. Water is streaming out of my eyes. But frick, I was going to finish this meal. But first, water. I knew I shouldn't, but at this point I'm not thinking straight. I drink the entire glass and keep on eating. Different waiters keep bringing me more water to see me up close. My brother is laughing his butt off, but frick, I am going to finish this. Finally though, I broke. Water was still streaming down my eyes faster and greater than I'd thought possible. I'd stopped wiping my nose ages ago because it just wouldn't stop. The entire restaurant, my family, and myself are laughing hilariously. 10/10 experience and great story to talk about with friends. But I might not be so cocky in the future. I love it when a food is too spicy and you keep on eating. There is a special feeling that comes with it that I can't describe. I believe the word is lunacy. Went to visit Auschwitz 3 years ago. I'm glad I did it as it was a significant part of World War II and thus the world, but I would never, ever go again. I went to Dachau about 10 years ago. My grandpa is a survivor and was actually liberated from there. I'm the only one to go back to Germany from my whole family. Glad I went to see Dachau, but man, it was an intense day and I don't wish to go back. C. Tried it more than once and I'm glad I got that curiosity out of the way, but it was beginning to be a regular part of my concert attending routines where I feel like because I was at a concert I had to do it out of tradition, but got really high on weed one day and had an eye-opening epiphany and never done it since. This what I came to comment, except C fixed me, made me happy, energetic, enthusiastic. After I saw how different it made me, and how much better it made me feel about myself and everything, I swore I'd never touch it again. South of the border, there's like a million billboards leading up to that place and it's just some old, smelly, gas station with a gift shop and some weird arcade. Growing weed. Jesus, it's hard work. 700 freaking plants, the feeding, trimming, general maintenance of the facility. It was a grind. Upside, I got to pinch about a 1/4 lb out of each harvest. Still, nope. It's literally farming and farming is hard. Took a break from my longtime girlfriend to sleep around and party because I thought the grass would be greener on the other side. It both was and wasn't. It clarified a lot about who I was and how I felt about my partner. It lasted 1 year. We both had fun and eventually found our way back to each other and are now married with 2 kids. Wouldn't have it any other way now. No regrets, right? 75-foot gap jump on my snowboard. Looking back at it, I'm surprised I made it over alive. But some hot chicks were there, so I'm glad I did. Heck yeah, man. I don't know how I did that crap when I was younger. When I was like 20, I got a chance to go to Mammoth Mountain and we went through the park and I was like, when will I ever get to ride this again? So I hit the money booter right below the lift. Someone later told me it was like 70-80 feet. Now that I'm in my 30s, I get scared going over like a 15-footer. Sleeping around. My mental health plummeted when I was around 20-21 and I slept with near enough anybody who would sleep with me. I'd never let myself get that way again, but I don't regret it. I now have zero interest in NSA sex, and I can genuinely say I'm comfortable only sleeping with my partner for the rest of my life. There's no curiosity about others or anything because I feel like I've done most of what there is to experience anyway. Raw octopus. In a back alley food shop in Beijing, they chopped the tentacles like noodles, put them in some hot broth in a bowl, and that was it. I could feel the tentacles gripping my mouth and throat. Probably a massive choking hazard. I had one mouthful and had to stop. Saw some little girl, maybe 6 years old, happily slurping away. That was her KFC or McDonald's. I missed my opportunity to try this in Korea. Walking down the street and this guy pulls up next to us, grabs the cooler from his truck bed and starts pulling out live octopus. Chop, 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 and he's dipping the still wriggling bits into spicy gochujang sauce. Offered me some but I chickened out. Roller coasters. Although I'll probably have to ride them again if my kid ends up enjoying them. I'll just cry inside and do it. LSD. Something I always wanted to try and never had the balls to do it until a few months ago. One week I was on cloud 9, extremely happy and in a good place, and was offered by a friend to do it that weekend. I figured no better time than now, and took a tab. 10/10 experience. It was an intense 12-hour trip and I felt like it gave me a different perspective on life and is something I'll always remember. I'm so opposed to doing it again because my first trip experience was so perfect. I don't want to risk taking it again and experiencing a bad trip. When you get the message, hang up the phone. Running of the bulls. It was a crazy adrenaline rush, but people all around me getting trampled and a guy near me getting gored makes me never want to do it again. Going to India. It was an eye-opening experience and an interesting culture with great food, but it was so gross. Trash, filth, traffic, and poverty all piled on top of each other. I was stressed the whole time I was there. Cliff diving. I was about to chicken out when I was on the edge of the cliff, but my girlfriend grabbed me tight and jumped off with me. I hate heights. A little less now. but that was replaced with a new fear of landing on top of sharp rocks. Living full-time in hotels instead of having an apartment. Management consultant here. I was working out of town during the week for a long time and the lease came up for renewal at my apartment in Chicago. I put all my stuff in storage and moved out. When I came home for the weekends, which was about 3 times a month, I just stayed in hotels using points and a little bit of cash. Saved a bunch of money compared to paying rent, but living in hotels 100% of the time really started to take a toll. Hotels are relatively nice environment, but it sucks not being surrounded by your own stuff. Eventually I couldn't take it anymore and got a new apartment. I lasted just under 6 months. I had wondered whether it could be done, and I'm glad I gave it a shot, but never again. Jumping out of the boat in the middle of the sea. Sure, it felt great, but right after I climbed back to the boat I saw few peculiar sea creatures that I do not wish to see again. I got hypnotized by a street performer downtown. There was a point where I thought I was an exotic dancer and started pole dancing around a traffic sign. I lost my grip and fell in the road and almost got run over. I woke up feeling really refreshed and it makes for a fun story, but I'm not gonna roll the dice on that again. That is a freaking brilliant story. I'm gonna go find a hypnotist right now. I went horseback riding in Australia once. It started raining 20 minutes into the 2-hour tour. It finished raining 5 minutes before the tour ended. The car I was driving home in then broke down, so I had to spend an hour in a hot car seat, wearing soaking wet clothes. The horseback riding was decent, even though I'll never do it again after that experience. I'm glad I tried it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.